It seems history about Aroldis Chapman is about to repeat itself. Remember the days when he was mowing down hitters with that jaw-dropping 105-mile-per-hour heater? Now here is Mason Miller, a pitcher so electric, so untouchable, that every time he steps on the mound, you know you're about to witness something special. Isn't that a replica of Chapman? In this video, we're diving deep into Mason Miller's insane rise from a Division III underdog to Major League Baseball All-Star flamethrower. At the same time, you will be shocked to learn that his explosive numbers are getting beyond Chapman's prime. With enough facts from Status, Miller is destined to surpass one of the game's most iconic closers. If you love jaw-dropping speed and underdog legends rewriting history, don't blink. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's ride the Miller heat wave together. Mason Miller's journey to Major League Baseball stardom didn't follow the typical script. He wasn't drafted out of a powerhouse D1 program. In fact, he started his collegiate career at Division III Waynesburg University. Diagnosed with type 1 diabetes along the way, Miller had every reason to walk away from baseball. But instead, he added 10 miles per hour to his fastball and transferred to Garden Webb, where he caught the attention of scouts with a heater that now regularly touches 102 miles per hour. Fast forward to 2024, and Miller has gone from being a fringe prospect to a full-blown phenomenon in Oakland. The A's saw something special and quickly transitioned him into a bullpen role to maximize his velocity and dominance. And it's worked big time. Miller was named in the 2024 All-Star team. His name is not showing up in conversations you'd usually reserve for elite closers. That is talking about the likes of Edwin Diaz, Emmanuel Clase, and yes, Aroldis Chapman. One thing is sure here, Miller isn't just another hard thrower. He's already making waves in a role where consistency, velocity, and strikeout stuff are everything. And with the A's now fully committed to him as their closer, you're watching the birth of a potential bullpen legend. Let's talk about his fastball, which is his signature weapon. Chapman made a name for himself throwing 103-mile-an-hour plus fastballs with ridiculous late life. But guess what? Miller's averaging 101.9 miles per hour on his heater this season, and he's touched 103.4. That's Chapman territory. Not to mention, Miller's four-seamer isn't just fast, it's riding high in the zone with elite spin, making it almost untouchable. Now on to strikeouts. Chapman in his prime boasted a K percentage in the 40s. Miller, he's currently at 46.3%, leading all qualified relievers, and doing it with just 9 career saves under his belt. That's scary good. And the control? While early Chapman often struggled with walks, Miller's walk rate sits around 7%, showing a much better feel for the zone this early in his career. Isn't that a massive edge in terms of long-term reliability and fantasy upside? And if you think Mason Miller is just a one-trick pony with a big fastball, think again. What sets him apart and makes this Chapman comparison stick? Simply put, it is the complete arsenal he's bringing to the mound. Let's start with his slider. This pitch is absolutely filthy. It averages around 89 to 91 miles per hour with devastating horizontal breaks. But here's what matters. Hitters are batting under 100 against it. And Miller doesn't just throw it for show. He's confident using it in any count. It tunnels well off the fastball and gives him a second true put-away pitch. Chapman had a slider too, but he leaned on the heater much more. Miller is already sequencing like a veteran. Then there's the cutter. This is where things get even more interesting. Miller introduced it as a way to change pace and miss barrels. This comes in at around 95 to 96 miles per hour, which is absurd for a secondary offering. Like that, it gives him a different look against lefties and helps neutralize hitters sitting dead red on the fastball. Before we proceed, if you like this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss deep dives like this. Another line is that the cutter isn't just functional, it's graded as one of the best in baseball based on run value per pitch. He's also experimenting with a changeup, though it's used sparingly. Even so, just the threat of it keeps hitters guessing. When a guy's throwing 103 miles per hour, then drops in a 91 mile per hour slider or an 87 mile per hour change, you can't sit on anything. The key here is command. Unlike early career Chapman, who often relied on raw stuff and hope for control, Miller is showing he can locate. His first pitch strike rate is above league average, and he's rarely pitching from behind in the count. As you also know, that's huge for maintaining leverage and efficiency. Put all of that together as an elite velocity, multiple wipeout pitches, and improving command, you will agree with me that Miller is the guy who doesn't just match what peak Chapman brought to the table. He might exceed it in versatility and polish. Now let's talk about the part that doesn't show up on the radar gun or stat sheet. Mason Miller's mentality on the mound. This guy pitches with intent and presence. You can see it in his body language. Whether it's in the 9th inning or a midweek game in April, he brings the same energy, locked in, no nonsense, and aggressive. He's not out there nibbling. He's attacking hitters with a purpose. That mindset is crucial. One of the reasons Aroldis Chapman dominated for so long wasn't just his stuff. It was the fear factor. Batters knew that they were in for a battle. Miller is developing that same aura. When he enters the game, everything tightens up for the hitters, for the crowd, and even for the viewers at home. You feel the shift. That's the kind of presence that defines elite closers. And here's something Miller has that Chapman didn't always have early in his career: composure. Despite his electric arsenal, Miller isn't a wild card. He doesn't implode under pressure. In fact, he seems to thrive in it. Whether it's closing out a tight game or bouncing back after giving up a hit, he stays even-keeled. That maturity is rare, especially for someone still relatively new to the role. Also worth noting is Miller's work ethic. His rise wasn't just handed to him. He dealt with injuries early, had to fight through setbacks, and still came back stronger. That tells you a lot about his mental makeup. He's built for the grind, not just the highlights. All of this, the focus, the fearlessness, the maturity, shows that Miller's edge isn't just about his arm, it's in his head. And that might be the biggest similarity to Chapman at his peak, or the reason Miller surpasses him. So here's the big question: can Mason Miller actually become the next Aroldis Chapman, or even surpass him? Let's start with the essential. Chapman set the bar high. Over 14 seasons, he racked up 320 plus saves, had a career strikeout rate over 40%, and was a 7-time All-Star. He wasn't just dominant, he was intimidating. His fastball touches 105 miles per hour, and when he was on, hitters had almost no chance. Now let's line that up with what we're already seeing from Miller. And remember, he's barely scratching the surface of his prime. His current fastball averages over 100 miles per hour, and his slider is arguably sharper than Chapman's ever was. He's posting strikeout rates that are already comparable to Chapman's best years, and he's doing it with a better walk rate and cleaner mechanics. But what really separates Miller is how he is using his stuff. Chapman often relied on pure velocity. Miller's approach is more conservative. He's learning how to sequence, set up hitters, and finish them off. He's mixing speeds. He's located. That shows a level of polish that usually takes years to develop. Add to that his workload management. The A's are using him wisely, not overextending him like teams often did with Chapman. That could mean more longevity and fewer injuries long term. Now, of course, Miller still has to prove it over time. Chapman's legacy was built on consistency, year after year of closing in high-stress situations. Miller's just beginning to get those reps, but the tools, the mindset, and the early dominance, they're all there. So what does all of this mean? Well, first off, it's reviving excitement around the closer role. For years, many teams drifted towards committee-style bullpens and analytics-driven matchups. But watching Miller come in, throwing 102+ mph with nasty movement and shutting the door, that's old-school closer energy. And it's exactly what fans love. He brings back that edge-of-your-seat feeling in the 9th inning. Second, he's becoming a reason to tune in to A's games, even for casual fans. Let's face it, Oakland hasn't exactly been a must-watch team recently, but Miller, he's box off. People check highlights just to see what he did in the final frame. He's that kind of electric. And finally, for young pitchers watching, Miller is setting a new example. He's showing that it's not just about throwing hard, it's about doing it smart. He's mixing pitches, attacking zones, staying composed, and working like a professional. That's the influence. That's the next wave. So whether or not he ends up topping Chapman's legacy, one thing's already clear. Mason Miller is changing the way we look at dominant closers again. And as long as he keeps doing what he's doing, we're all here for the ride. What do you think? Is Mason Miller already the next Aroldis Chapman, or is he carving out a legacy that's totally his own? Drop your take in the comments because we would like to hear your opinion. Remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss deep dives like this, especially as Miller's season unfolds.